thing that's a little flaky, a little weird, but you decided to do a serious search, but your one requirement was to go into ancient documents around the time Jesus was around. But the requirement was you didn't use the Bible, and you didn't use Christian writing. In other words, pro-Jesus material from the ancient world. You only let in materials that were just either indifferent to him or even anti-him or something like that. Could you find out his identity? Or what could you find out about his identity? And this is how this works. There's at least 17 of these writings out there. You will discover 17 of those. I'm not going to share all 17 with you because I believe in sparing you that kind of thing. I'm sure you're grateful for that. But I will give you 3, okay? So just show how this works. This guy over here on the left, his name is Lucian, and he was kind of the Conan O'Brien of his day. I mean, he was a satirist. In other words, that meant he was kind of a smarty pants about society and all that. And he makes kind of commentary about Christians and Jesus, not in a pro way at all. He just writes about them. This guy in the middle is Tacitus. He was a Roman historian, and so he was much more serious than this other guy, but he was very interested in Roman history. And along the way, he just kind of has to mention Jesus and his followers and all that when he's wanting to talk about something else. This guy over here named Josephus, he was a Jewish historian. And he was interested in Jewish history, but along the way, he mentions Jesus and his followers and what have you. Not as a way of promoting them, but just mentioning them. And here's some of the things that they said. Now, I'm sure when you look at this now, you're like, please, kind sir, can you sum this up in your own delightful words? Because I won't make you read all that. I would encourage you, though, as you explore, you can find things like this, and this is how it works. There's things written about Jesus out there. And if you take these 3, add it to the other 14 documents. Again, the requirement being no Bible, no pro-Christian stuff from the ancient world. You could learn from writings like this at least 15 things about Jesus' identity. I'm going to show you what those are, okay? Jesus' life and teaching were centered around Palestine. He had a brother named James. He was known as a wise and virtuous man. He was known as a teacher and philosopher who taught new ideas and laws. He was reported to have performed miracles. He was known to make prophecies. As a result of his work, he had many disciples. He was thought of as a false teacher by Jewish authorities. This one's really interesting to me. He was accused of practicing sorcery by Jewish authorities. That's an interesting one, especially with the miracle stories and all that. He was crucified under the authority of Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. His crucifixion happened around the time of the Jewish Passover, around 33 AD. Executioners gambled for his clothing. You can learn that from outside the Bible. This one's really a trip. I like this. There was a strange darkness and earthquake during the time of his execution. Again, outside the Bible information. His followers believed he was raised from the dead, and the Jewish authorities taught that the disciples had stolen the body. Now here's the thing that's important about that. If you know much about Jesus reporting, the recording of his life from this book, you know that all that stuff isn't here. It's the same stuff. It's a parallel. So in other words, you ought to have at least a little bit more confidence about what's written in here. But here's the problem. That still, people, you know how confidence gets raised in ancient documents? Like, scholars have a lot of confidence in Tacitus and Josephus and all that we're getting what they originally wrote. Well, the way that they do is based on numbers of manuscripts available. It's at least one of the ways. So in other words, if you have a lot of manuscripts of an ancient work, say Plato or Aristotle or somebody like that, you have an increase in confidence. The number 2 in the ancient world is Homer's Iliad. You might have been required to read this in high school or something like that. It has like 200 plus manuscripts. So they're very, very confident. When you read the Iliad, you're really reading what Homer wrote down. And he had something I kind of like to look at it this way. He had about that many. You know how many in the New Testament had that reports Jesus? This many. Now here's the thing. We said we reprised this. Some of you knew that was coming. Some of you, we apologize for the coronary issues you now have. Plus, we thought we'd put that in the history spot because you need a little bit of a wake-up call, okay? But here's the deal. Homer's Iliad, they have a lot of confidence that we're getting what Homer wrote. But the New Testament materials that we know of in the Bible, there are 25,000 manuscripts. That increases confidence a lot. They can compare and contrast. And there's really not a lot of space for reporting to go on and get exaggerated and what have you. Final problem with this. So first of all, outside of the Bible, you can find out the outline of the Bible. The second thing, all the different manuscripts. One more thing. Garrett Armstrong said a while ago, man, it was a full 40 years between Jesus' life and what was written down. Now, first of all, that is one book. Other books in the New Testament, it's more of a spread of like 20 years, something like that. But 40 years. Here's what I've learned. As an adult now, I'm 46. And I'm glad that blanked out. I worked out kind of cool. And you don't know how old I am. It's pretty neat. See those people in the back. Okay, 46. Okay, but you don't look a day over like 47. You look great. But here's what I've learned. You ever notice when you were a kid, for instance? A month felt like a year. This is the way the kid timelines go. You ever notice as an adult, a year feels like a month. It just kind of goes really, really, really fast. See, I can tell you about an event 10 years ago. I can tell you where I was, what I felt, what I thought. I can tell you about an event 24 years ago in my own life. There's me with my bride, with her cool 80s headband going on there. Yeah, that's right. So 24 years ago, she was walking down the aisle. I'd written her a song, and I was forgetting the words as she was walking down the aisle. I remember that very clearly. 24 years ago. And I'm not going to forget that 34 years either, okay? So here's the thing. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a feel for how 10, 20, 30, 40 years actually feels in a piece that we're getting ready to do here. And we're going to do a kind of a walk back in time. We're going to show the years 2001, 1991, 1981, and 1971. And the movies that played, the music that was there, TV shows that got their start in these years, okay? Just to give you a feel, there are some of you that will remember some of this. There are some of you in this room that will remember all of it, kind of in a spooky way, like, oh yeah, I remember all of that, okay? Now during this piece, One Lifers, this is the time of our offering and all that. You'll see the buckets pass by. If you're a guest here tonight, feel free. They keep leaving up the picture of me and my wife. It's such a good picture. But that'll pass by, okay? Because here's the point. Always remember this. And the older you get, you'll figure this out. 10, 20, 30, even 40 years is really not that long.